everyone. Before we officially convene the meeting, I want to make a special presentation today. We're so glad that Matt Blake is back on the council, so Matt's in his seat tonight. But Matt in his seat, after being gone for 313 days on active duty. First, let's give Matt a round of applause. Matt, thank you for your service to our country again. Once again, thank you. But we're glad to have Matt back here at the dais. But that means that Adam Caduce, who was appointed to fill Matt's seat during those 313 days, is no longer at the dais. So we do want to recognize Adam for his service to Urbandale and for stepping in and filling that seat on a temporary basis. So Adam, I'd like to have you come forward. Adam is a lifelong Urbandale resident. Again, he stood in, put his name up to step in and do this on a temporary basis. So Adam, thank you so much for your service to Urbandale during this time. And we just have a small token of our appreciation to you for serving the city during these 313 days.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure.
Certainly, would you like to say anything?
It's been the honor of a lifetime to represent Urbandale, so thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Adam. Thank you for your service. Nicole, should I turn this on?
Don't trust him.
Just in case.
The other side. Oh. All right, and with that, then I will call the Tuesday, November 30, 2021 Urbandale City Council meeting to order and ask the clerk to take roll call, please.
Blake,
Happily here.
Carberry Montgomery,
Here.
Obrecht,
Here.
Hoagie,
Here.
Russell.
Here.
Thank you.
All right. And if you could please stand as you're able for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Urbandale is a national leader in character counts, endeavoring at all times to promote and model the principles of trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and citizenship. In conducting tonight's meeting, we expect that all participants will act in a respectful manner consistent with these principles. Item 2 is approve the agenda. Is there a motion to second?
So moved.
Motion by Pogge. Second by Russell. Discussion, please vote. Okay, and that passes. As you can see by the agenda tonight, we do have a number of very special presentations tonight, and we're first going to start with a presentation regarding a successful CPR event, and for that, I'm going to introduce our fire chief, Jerry Holt. Chief, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor, council members, guests. It's an honor to be in front of you to tell you that you made a difference. Sometimes when you're doing all the work that the city does, is you do stuff, and at the end of the day, you're like, wow, did I make a difference today? And I'm here to tell you about a time that collectively we made a difference, and the two paramedics that were involved certainly made a difference. And this is a great example of our effort because it was a joint effort with Clive. So we received this call, a Clive engine responded, our ambulance responded, and we were able to resuscitate this individual who was clinically dead when they started. So the person is alive today and walking around normal. Because of their efforts and because of the equipment and manpower and staffing that you provided for us to make this happen. So at the end of the day, you made a difference and somebody's alive because of that difference. So it's always great to be able to recognize that. So I'd first like to mention that the Clive engine that responded has been recognized in Clive. So they wanted to do it in front of their group. So they're not here tonight, but certainly shout out to them for what they did. They were part of the event. So I would ask if fire medic Zahn and fire medic Flores would come up. If you'll turn there and face the crowd, just tell you a little bit about what they did. As I said, they responded to an individual. It's just started as a regular call. By the time they got there, this individual was in a cardiac rhythm of asystole or flatline that you may have seen on TV. And it's pretty rare that you're able to resuscitate somebody that's in a flatline condition when you get there. But because the Clive engine responded, they responded quickly. They started CPR. Our crews arrived and they started the advanced life support stuff. So they were able to establish an airway and maintain an IV line and administer medications. And they were able to resuscitate this person. So one of the programs that we have started in the last several years is to recognize that when we have a successful resuscitation with a commendation bar. So each one of these members are being presented a commendation bar for their efforts in that. I'd also like to point out that Fire Medic Zahn is also much like Councilmember Blake, would just come back from active duty earlier this year where he was stationed in Coviso for about a year's time. So again, not only are they serving our community, but they're serving the greater good too. So something that's just worth being mentioned. So I'd like to present each of these guys with their commendation bar. Thank you.
Good job. Thank you, Chief. Good job, guys. Thank you very much. And next, we have another terrific recognition for our life-saving event, and I'm going to recognize Police Captain Dan Stein. Dan, the floor is yours.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. I'd like to present with you Westcom dispatchers and the officers from Squad Number 2 for recognition of their life-saving actions during a recent event. On October 28, 2021, dispatchers received a 911 call from a teenager. She stated her mother had been stabbed by a man and the man was still in the kitchen with a knife. Officers immediately responded to the residents as dispatchers continued to relay important information on the suspect and the scene. Upon arriving, officers acted quickly to complete the following task. The suspect was still at the site and was immediately taken into custody. Multiple officers tended to the victim's life-threatening wounds. Bandages and a tourniquet were applied to a severed artery and other severe lacerations. An officer comforted the victim's 2 children and removed them from the immediate area. The sergeant directed the response and follow-up investigation. The remaining officer on the squad continued to handle all the calls for service in the areas of the city as the victim was treated and the suspect was arrested. The life-saving actions, apprehension, and the suspect, of the suspect and the care of the family members was a team effort involving Westcom dispatchers, police, and UFD EMS. Those involved are Peg Aldrich, Mariah Patricia Ledoux, Joan Chadwick, Sergeant Shane Taylor, Officer Jessica Winter, Officer Brian Butcher, Officer Bryce Baum, Officer Anthony Brooks, Officer Brady Farrington, and Officer Megan Cowden. We commend the dispatchers and officers for a job well done. The Urbandale community thanks you. I'd like to introduce you to the victim, Ashley, and her daughters, Gracie and Emma, who are in the back of the room here tonight to support these team members. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain Stein. And thanks all of you for what two wonderful stories tonight that we've been able to share with the public. As Dan said, and the Chief Holt said, there's not a lot of times that we have some good news to share. So these are the times when we can really recognize the good news. So thank you for your efforts for protecting our public. It's much appreciated. Thank you, Dan. And with that, we also have the opportunity to swear in 3 new officers tonight, and I'm going to recognize Sergeant Rebecca Taylor to start recognizing them. Sergeant Taylor?
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I present to you, if you guys want to maybe face the crowd here, or how do you want to?
Yeah, that's fine.
I present to you Officer Alex Strotz, who was born and raised in Des Moines, graduating from Lincoln High School in 2013. Alex served in the United States Marine Corps from 2013 until 2017. Alex enrolled at Grandview University after the Marine Corps and earned his BA in criminal justice in 2021. Alex was hired by the Urbandale Police Department in April, and Alex graduated from the Iowa Law Enforcement Academy in August and is currently training on the night shift. I also present to you Officer Trey Kehoe. Trey grew up outside of Fort Dodge, Iowa, graduating from Prairie Valley High School in 2013. Trey attended Central Community College and finished up at Simpson College with a bachelor's and master's degree in criminal justice. Trey was hired by the Urbandale Police Department in April. Trey also graduated from the Iowa Law Enforcement Academy in August and served as a lieutenant as nominated by his class. Trey is currently training on the night shift as well, along with Officer Trotz. Officer Michael Crockett, last, and not only last, I should say. Michael Crockett grew up in Davenport, Iowa, attending Bettendorf High School, graduating in 2014. Michael attended Western Illinois University, graduating in 2017 with a degree in business management and law enforcement. Michael was hired by the Springfield, Illinois Police Department in 2019 and received his law enforcement certification through Illinois in May of 2019. Michael is currently married and residing in West Des Moines. Michael was hired by the Urbandale Police Department in August of 2021 and is currently in training on the night shift with the other 2. Present to you Officers Drotz, Kehoe, and Crockett. You can do them all at the same time.
All right, guys, if you want to, here, I'll just come here and face, hand in line here. Get some pictures here. Raise your right hand, please. I, Michael Crockett, of the city of Urbandale, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the state of Iowa. That I will faithfully and impartially, to the best of my ability, discharge all the duties of the office of police officer of the city of Urbandale, Iowa, as now and hereafter required by law. I'll sign these and I want to leave them all signed. While they're signing that, I know we probably have some family and friends here tonight for these guys. Thank you for being their support. We much appreciate that. Thank you for sharing your family and your friends with us. Thank you for being their support system. These guys are going to be out there protecting our city, doing their best to keep and putting their lives on the line every day. So, guys, thank you for joining Urbandale. Thank you for joining our family. And it's our pledge to protect you as well as we can. But thank you to your family and friends for being here tonight to support you as well. So, you're all our heroes. So, thank you very much. Let's give them another round.
One lefty and 2 righties. Alaska is left-handed.
What a great night. What a great way to start with. A bunch of great stories and to swear in 3 new officers for our police. So now we just have to go down and do the business. So with that, we have another presentation regarding Mid-American Energy and the Energy Efficiency Rebate Program. And we're going to introduce our Director of Public Engineering, or Public Works and Engineering, John Larson. John?
Yep.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Tonight, we have Ken Zetzer from Mid-American Energy. We were lucky to receive an Energy Efficiency Rebate Program award. So Ken's going to tell us a little bit about the award, and then we'll be able to present it to the mayor.
Thank you, Mayor, council persons, and everyone here. With Mid-American Energy, first of all, we're pleased to offer energy efficiency rebate programs, and as it related to the Public Works and Parks Department new building that's been in construction right now, we don't redesign the building, but we work with the owner's design teams to help make it more energy efficient. Again, our role is to kind of help support them, use energy modeling tools to kind of say what would be the best opportunity for them, and they can select the best one out of that. Tonight, we're going to be able to give a presentation check in the amount of $40,630, and that's actually going to save the city of Urbandale versus a energy code-based building almost $30,000 a year. So the energy consumptions that the model predicted was 39% less than a code-based building, and from the natural gas point of view, it was 14% less. So with that in mind, you guys had a great design team. They worked real well with us right now, and this is bringing it to a successful next step, if you will. I know it's still under construction. Any questions?
All right. Thank you very much.
We have a big presentation. It must have been from, okay. I couldn't hear this while talking.
Get Larson in there too.
On three. 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much.
So yes, thank you to Mid-American for that, and we're proud to have Mid-American in our community as a business, and we're proud to partner with them throughout our community, so thank you for that. All right, next we will have a presentation regarding DART, and to start that off, I'm going to recognize the Chief Executive of DART, Elizabeth Prizzuti. Elizabeth, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I hope, sorry we don't have a big check for you. I feel a little underprepared. But thank you for the opportunity to be here with you tonight. Just want to thank you for the opportunity to be here, and that for us to be able to give you an update on some key initiatives that the DART Commission and staff have been working on over the last year or so. But first, I really want to thank Councilwoman Montgomery for serving on the DART Commission. She does a great job of representing the city of Urbandale, and then also Mayor Andewig serves as her alternate when she's not available. And both do a great job, and you should be very proud of them in their service on the commission. So as you may recall, the DART Commission was reconstituted in 2017, providing each one of DART's member communities with a representative on the DART Board of Commissioners. And since that time, the DART Commission, along with staff, have invested a considerable amount of time evaluating DART services, its operations, and our funding structure to ensure that we are maximizing the investment of our member communities. And as a result, over the last several years, we've had the opportunity to implement 2 major cost-neutral service changes that provided both earlier and later service, as well as more midday service on many of DART's routes. We also eliminated some underutilized service in some of our member communities in order to reinvest those resources to meet other transportation needs. We also introduced our first Mobility on Demand pilot, which eliminated a service here in Urbandale, and we replaced it with a new service that we partnered with both Uber and Yellow Cab on, and that's been very popular. We've also been diversifying our fleet, purchasing more 30-foot buses for shuttle and support routes that don't warrant a 40-foot bus. And we've also approved a new funding formula to better align the cost and benefit for DART's member communities. And so tonight, I'd like to We'd like to talk to you a little bit more and remind you about the services that you have here in Urbandale, how we're planning for the future, as well as some of our funding and facility efforts that we have underway, as well as some other new initiatives. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Luis Montoya, DART's Chief Planning Officer, to talk about some of those initiatives.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Good evening, members of the City Council. I want to start off with just a little bit of an overview of the service that DART provides for the City of Urbandale and really the connecting to the region. The first thing to note is that it's really a variety of services meant to serve a variety of needs. We'll talk a little bit about kind of local service where people might be running errands and going to some local destinations, as well as cross-regional service for longer distance commuter trips or other trips around the region. Some of the routes that I'll talk about are what we call fixed routes, where there's a set time and a set schedule that people walk out to a bus stop. Other services are more on demand, where people determine where they need to go and they book a trip to go from point to point and not just from bus stop to bus stop. This is an overview of a portion of the DART system map. Again, just highlighting the variety of routes and services that we have serving Urbandale. We have a local route that I mentioned, Route 5 along Merle Hay Road. There's actually a number of other local routes that come in and out of Merle Hay Mall that connect into and throughout Des Moines and touch that part of Urbandale there. We also have local Route 74, which I'll talk more about, serving that urban loop area. I'll touch more on that a little bit. Then we have some of those express routes. Those are the routes in light green on Northwest 86th as well as on Hickman. Those routes are designed to serve longer distance commuting. And then lastly, we have Flex Connect, which Elizabeth mentioned is our partnership with Uber and Yellow Cab, and I'll describe a little bit more about how that works and show a better map. We launched this service in 2019 and really appreciate the support that we've received from the city, from the chamber, and from others in making this a success. This is our pilot with Uber and Yellow Cab, whereby anyone can get a trip from anywhere in that zone that we're showing there, which is bounded in the north by 8035 and the south by Hickman, and then it's between Merle Hay Road and Northwest 86th Street. People can go from anywhere in that zone to select bus stops. So it's not meant to go anywhere in the zone, it's just meant to get to select bus stops. And we did that because we had a bus route that had low ridership, and we realized that we could actually serve the same number of people at a lower cost if we subsidized Uber trips. And so that is something that was relatively successful in the fall of 2019 when we launched it. And it's a type of model that we want to see how it might be applied elsewhere in the region. We also have an on-call service. This is a little bit different. This is actually served by a DART vehicle. You have to call a day ahead of time, and it's really meant to serve the growing needs of Grimes and the surrounding communities. Grimes has less fixed route service, and there was a desire for more all-day service to connect into some of the surrounding communities, including Urbandale. And so we expanded this service just this last summer so that we can increase access in the region. This is served by a DART vehicle, but you have to call at least 24 hours in advance. So it's not quite that on-demand like when you order the Uber, or in another example that I'll share. We also have our paratransit and rideshare service. These are more tailored for very specific needs. Paratransit for people who either through mental or physical disability aren't able to access the fixed route network. And then rideshare is our commuter van pull, really tailored for longer distance van pulling, up to 50 miles or so. So I'm going to transition now from what we're providing today to our plans for service in the future. I'm really going to keep it pretty high level. I would invite you, if you're curious, to review the spiral bound notebook that I passed out that has maps, it has descriptions of everything that I'll touch on, as well as some news articles that have been out. This one in the Business Record, but also recently in the Register a couple of weeks ago. We set out in early 2020 to create a long-range plan for DART service that really focused on optimizing our existing service, making sure we're doing the most with the resources we have, looking at the evolving needs of our region, in particular, how our region's growing and how people's mobility is changing, where they need to go and how they need to get there. We want to look at, in particular, some innovative service delivery models and bring it all together in a long-term vision for DART services. As we looked at data, such as bus ridership, but also general driving patterns, we did outreach to hear from our stakeholders. We heard that and we saw that there's a need to improve connections between housing and jobs, in particular between low-wage jobs where people are finding work and where they can afford to live. And if you think about how the DART network has historically been set up to transmit people in and out of Des Moines, and as we look at how our region's growing, we know that there's more needs outside of Des Moines, and in particular, a desire for more flexibility of travel, not just on those long-distance commute routes. We also heard about a desire for more weekend service and connections, not just into downtown, but again, between communities and within communities. So understanding those needs, we came out with a number of recommendations, and the recommendations really fall into two categories. The first category is what we're calling near-term service proposals. These are things that we plan to do in the next year or two using existing resources. So we would address routes that have underperformance, at least low ridership routes, and we realize that we can transition to a different type of service and actually hopefully serve more people or serve the existing customers better at the same or lower cost. This is a relatively short list. There's just 4 things on this list, but we think that they address those needs that I identified in a cost-neutral manner, and these are things that we plan to pursue in the next year or two. I'm not going to go into all of them, but I do want to touch on one that is here in Urbandale. I mentioned Route 74 is one of the routes that serves Urbandale. It really goes from Valley West Mall up into the urban loop area, serves as a kind of what we call a first mile, last mile connection, because many people are transferring from other DART routes at Valley West Mall, that short distance up to the urban loop. This route had low ridership really for the past few years, and with the pandemic, we saw even decreased further. And we have a proposal to retire that route and replace it with that Uber yellow cab model that I talked about. We first launched in that zone further to the east in Urbandale. We think that that could be a good way to serve the limited number of people who are using that service today, but also to expand the zone further north to cover more of that urban loop area and even get into Grimes, as I mentioned, some of the growing needs for transportation in Grimes. So this would be a service that connects people to other DART services. It takes them from the zone to specific bus stops. I will say that, Uber has taken a hit during the pandemic in terms of driver availability. So this is something that we think is promising. We think we have a pretty good example, but that we want to continue to look at Uber's driver availability and their performance on our current pilot before we'd be ready to launch this one. Then the second type of innovative service delivery model I want to quickly touch on is one that would be operated that is operated by DART. So rather than have Uber or Yellow Cab do the trips, it's a DART driver in a DART bus, but using a similar technology where people can use their mobile device or call into DART if that's what they prefer to get anywhere within a zone. We actually just launched the service in Ankeny just 2 weeks ago, and it has been relatively successful. We've seen increased ridership. And the goal here was really to expand access. Ankeny's a growing community like Urbandale, and we've heard, and in our data, we saw that there's an increased need for local transit access so that people can get to destinations throughout Ankeny, but also to connect to those DART routes that then connect them to the rest of the region. So that was a quick overview of the cost-neutral near-term improvements. Of course, in our study and in talking with our stakeholders, we We heard a lot about needs that go beyond what we could deliver in a cost-neutral manner. And we wanted to make sure that we were documenting those needs, coming up with some recommendations, how we think we can address those needs, but also be clear that we haven't necessarily identified the funding for these. So these aren't near-term improvements, these are potential future frequency. Those are really responsive to a lot of the needs that we saw. People are also pretty interested and positive about some of those newer innovative service delivery approaches. Of course, when we talk about eliminating routes, there are some concerns from people who rely on those routes today. There are few people who use those routes. Doesn't mean that there's nobody who uses them. And we take that feedback seriously. And right now we're in the process of just, going back and re-reviewing our recommendations to make sure that if we can be responsive to some of those concerns, if it means we don't completely eliminate a route, but we just leave, 1 or 2 trips a day, then maybe that's something that we'll do. So we really are trying to be responsive to those concerns that we've heard. Among other things with the on-demand service models, there's just a lot of questions, things that people haven't tried before. Of course, they're going to be curious about how long is my wait time going to be, who's the driver, what is the app, all of those things. So it just highlights the need for more education and training as we roll these services out. In addition to those service proposals, of course, we want to make sure that we're highlighting other ways in which transit can be supportive. And some of these are things that DART can influence, and others are things that our member communities can. First and foremost, we want to emphasize that as our region grows, the most cost-effective way to serve the new residents and new jobs is if those are located where transit access already exists. So having more dense housing and jobs located along busy corridors that are easier to serve with transit makes it more cost-effective for us to serve them. Also, policies promoting complete streets, which I know Urbandale has, really help to ensure that customers can get to and from bus stops safely, because every bus ride starts and ends with a walk. And then lastly, that we think about transit, not just as mobility, getting people to jobs, but also as about a way to improve the equity in our region. And so all of this just comes together as a vision for DART services. This is a map showing kind of how all the recommendations come together: new routes, new zones, updated routes, improved bus stops. And really it's about investing in transit more where it makes sense, where the density is supportive, where we've heard from our residents and seen in our analysis, heard from our businesses it's needed, but also invest more in those flexible options where they make sense, maybe where there's less demand or where destinations are more spread out. The more on-demand model that takes people more curb to curb and doesn't expect them to walk the longer distances makes more sense. All of this would need to come together both in the physical space as well as virtually through technology so that people can plan their trips and transfer seamlessly between travel modes. And I'll pass it back to Elizabeth.
Thanks, Luis. So I'm going to wrap it up with talking about some funding initiatives that we have underway and then some other projects. So last February, the DART Commission approved a new property tax formula. It's something that they worked on for over a year. And the formula really works to, or the goals and intent of the formula is really to meet the regional intent of DART, to allow for DART's member communities to continue to find value in maintaining their membership, as well as provide flexibility for DART to meet future needs of the community. The formula really works to align that cost and benefit for DART's member communities. And one of the things the commission did have in mind as it worked through the process was recognizing that the end solution was not going to be a perfect solution for everyone, and that the new formula is definitely a balance of all of our member communities' needs. And so the work related to the formula really works to align that service and benefit, and the new rates take into account service levels. And so you will see here, the city of Des Moines does have the most amount of service in the is part of the DART system, and so their rate or contribution to DART does go up and does exceed that 95-cent cap. And so they are paying in addition to what we can levy in order to fulfill that. And you'll see that most of DART's members' communities' rates will go down. The implementation period of the formula is 8 years. We are hopeful to be able to expedite that. One of our other initiatives that we have is looking at alternative funding sources. And when the commission's worked on this for several years, and last year we had the opportunity at the legislature to talk about alternative funding and identified the potential for a new hotel motel tax to support transit. And it would be a statewide tax available to not only DART, but other communities across the state, and looking to implement a 5% hotel motel tax. So we weren't successful last legislative session. We came really close. It was in the Senate bill and in the governor's compromise bill, but we weren't able to make any headway at the House as at the close of session. So we are revisiting it again this year and have had some good conversations with legislatures, but that will provide a significant amount of property tax savings to all of our communities. That new revenue would have to go to property tax reduction. And so we are estimating that about a 5% hotel motel tax would generate over $10 million, around $10 million here locally within the DART service area, and reduce property taxes levied, which would bring rates across our member communities down between 22 and 51 cents. So a significant savings, and we're very hopeful that we'll be successful in that, and recognizing just as those property tax rates are very important, and wanting to provide some diversification as well for DART. One of the other projects that we've had underway and talked about in previous updates with DART is our operations and maintenance facility. Our current facility is over 40 years old. It's located in the floodplain. It's just south of MLK and behind the BP station off of Southwest 9th Street. It's also landlocked, and as we've been working with FTA, they have don't believe that it's worthy of additional investment by DART. It's also undersized as we think about adding additional electric vehicles to our fleet, and there's a significant amount of enhancements that are needed to make it viable for the long term. And so we have been looking at whether a new facility would be worthwhile as we look to the future. We have identified a property that could be a potential home for an operations and maintenance facility. There may be some, as we look to the viability of this, there may be some challenges due to some archaeological findings that were located in the area when the WRA built its methane facility. So we're working through that with FTA, but some of the next steps that we're continuing to do is looking at what the design of a facility would look like and what the actual cost would be. And we will be continuing those discussions with our commission and providing them an update actually next week. And then some of the other things that we've been working on at DART is our Half-Fare pilot program that launched in January of 21. And what it allows is for some different subsets of our community that have challenges to be able to access a half-price bus pass. So anybody who is currently unemployed, seeking food assistance, and going through job training, or receives a housing voucher can now access a half-price bus pass. It's been very popular. We've seen a lot of good response to that. And as of today, we have just over 300 participants in that program. And then lastly, you have our electric buses. We did launch those into service about a year ago, and they are performing very well, and excited to learn more as they get more miles on the road. We've also been looking at different partnership opportunities. We have been working with several residential property management groups like Newberry Living and Conlin on providing residents of apartment complexes with access to DART bus passes. So that's been very popular, and we've seen really good response to using DART when those residents have that access. And then lastly is our art shelter program. We've had a lot of art shelters, and we just are in the process of installing some new ones on 6th Avenue. We installed some at Drake over the summer, and look forward to working with our member communities as we look to expand our shelter program and adding art into the community. So with that, I'll take any questions and just appreciate your time and attention this evening.
All right, thank you, Elizabeth and Luis. Any questions from the council? All right, thank you for the update. Appreciate
All right,
that.
thank you.
Next, we're going to have an update from Catch Des Moines, and I'm going to recognize our CEO and president of Catch Des Moines, Greg Edwards. Greg?
Thank you, Mayor Clark, or excuse me, Mayor Andwig. You guys haven't driven by his house yet, have you? I want to check that out. You want me to
We have
do
a
this?
Christmas light, holiday light contest in our neighborhood.
He beat me out this year. Yeah, there we go. Well, good evening. Thank you, Mayor and Council and City Manager, and I'm sure the crowd's here to hear me and not DART, right? No. Annual update. So as you all know, we've had a very trying year in our industry. Well, actually about more than a year and a half now. COVID has taken a big toll on the travel industry in central Iowa as well as across the country. To date, we had 409 events that canceled. These are events, conventions, meetings, sporting events, et cetera, with a total economic impact of over $330 million to the local economies. And that's a lot of money. A lot of job losses went with this. During the height, I'll give you a couple examples. A hotel with 200 rooms would employ normally about 50 to 75 people. When the pandemic hit, they were employing about 5 people, running from 60, 70% occupancy levels down to 5 to 10%. And I'll show you some more stats as we go here. Hotel motel tax, and this is what we follow hotel occupancy with. The red line is the actual occupancy according to our STAR data report, which is a big national company that everybody subscribes to. But you can see the initial big dip in April of 20. We were actually off to a good fiscal year last year with Iowa caucuses here in February. You see the big bump in occupancy during caucus time, then the huge dip down to April, and then slowly, gradually came up, and then it was just kind of a roller coaster. Continues to be a roller coaster today. If you look at our occupancies, we look at it on a weekly basis, and right now we're running about 50% occupancy year to date. Normal times, again, would be close to about 70. So we're still not nearly up to levels we need to be. Event booking wise, as I mentioned previously, our 2019-20 fiscal was the best year in the history of your CVB. We had booked 388 future events, conventions, sports, et cetera. Last year, we dipped down to 125 bookings. Didn't even come close to our goal last year. Our goal last year was 250. Our board always approves our gold numbers. This year, the board did lower our goal to 220. We're on pace right now to reach and hopefully surpass that goal, but there's still a lot of question marks, as you guys all know, with this new variant that's out there today. You'll be receiving from us here electronically our annual report, which is just a quick 2-pager, give you some facts and figures on not only what the effects of the pandemic has had, but some of the brighter side things as well. I think you would all agree with us that the tourism travel industry is one of those industries that can really help spark the economies back again. We've worked closely with the governor's office and Iowa Economic Development and all these different agencies, and and putting together strategies on how we do spark. And we did see some of those results through the year. If you look back to this past summer, it was pretty null and gloomy and up until about April, and then the Dew Tour hit last May, which was a huge undertaking and a huge kudos to the entire community for the new skate park. We were going to put it out here at the Urbandale Skate Park, but that other one they built downtown was just a little bit bigger. But huge success. Obviously, got a lot of television all over the world, a lot of mentions on the Olympic Games this summer in Tokyo. Then in June, we hosted our first Ironman event, which was a half Ironman. This next year, we'll host a full Ironman. World Pork Expo came off at about half of the attendance that they would normally have. We also hosted National Junior High School Rodeo out at the fairgrounds in June. A huge national soccer tournament in July. The U.S. Youth Soccer President's Cup was here, bringing teams from all over the country. We hosted USA-Canada Lions Clubs, which brought in about 1,500 people in September. And in July, also hosted a large basketball tournament that ran 3 weeks consecutively, which brought in literally thousands of people for about a 3-week period, which really helped because we weren't seeing much in business travel. We're still not seeing very much in business travel, which really is kind of the bread and butter of the travel industry here. These are just a few of the things. Happy to report we also brought in some really good stuff in July that actually moved down here from Minneapolis, a large ethanol convention because of the unrest in that city. They had reached out to us, and we also had hosted a big agriculture grain convention here as well. Bottom line, if we didn't have sports and agriculture during this pandemic, we'd be even worse shape than we are today. Great partnerships throughout Urbandale, a great partnership with you all. We appreciate that. Great partnership with the Chamber, and we have 60 different partners, members of our organization that reside here in Urbandale. Doing a lot of blogs. All throughout the pandemic, we started doing a lot of new strategies and what we do and to market the area, to keep Des Moines in front of people's faces. Once travel was lifted, they would think, well, maybe we'll take a side trip and head to the Des Moines Metro for the weekend. You can see all that kind of stuff on our website. Lots of new videos, blogs, all kinds of great stuff. Outlook for the rest of this year and into early 22. State associations are now starting to meet again. We're seeing about 50% attendance in those. Good example, the Iowa Library Association met just a couple weeks ago. Normally would have about 300 people. They had 150. So we're seeing a lot of fall off on those groups as well. Corporate travel, at least here in the Metro, is pretty non-existent still. National trends, though, I read these headlines every day in my emails from other visitor industry data that says business travel's up and airports are busy, and that's true, but it's hitting the coast right now. Hopefully we'll see more of that coming in after the first of the year. Again, not knowing what this new pandemic's going to do. Our requests for proposals are still lagging. We continue to keep in touch with our clients and all that good stuff. Again, sporting groups, ag groups have been strong. Religious and professional associations are not quite there yet. And the last quarter of this year always remains soft, not now that we're into the holiday season and all that good stuff. Talked a little bit about our strategies. We've kept in touch with the customers. We're starting to attend trade shows again this year. We've been to about 3 different shows this year, a big sports show, national sports show, a large religious conference planner show, and a big corporate meeting planner show as well to date. Next big events, the next year looks fairly bright for us as far as the event business goes. We've got a USA Swimming, another Tier Pro Series coming into the YMCA downtown. World Pork will be back. State Games of America, we're hosting that next year. That's the Iowa Games with all 50 states participating in this. It's the State Games of America. We're sharing that with Ames. It was a joint bid process that we did, I think, 6 years ago with Chuck Long and the Iowa Sports Foundation and the Ames CVB, so that's going to be here this summer. IndyCar Series coming back to Newton, which is great news because that helps all of us. It helps kicks your hotels a little bit up too with your interstate hotels. USJ Gymnastics is doing a championship tournament here. Ironman, I mentioned, will be back in June for a full Ironman this year. And a bunch of other good stuff coming in, so. Still have 88 leads out and in the works, and 450 plus qualified prospects that we're working as well. The city's booming. You've seen all the big growth. We've been blessed with some new attractions and new things that we can sell. The skate park, Mid-American Energy Complex out in West Des Moines is now open. The new Grimes complex that they're building in Grimes with the 13 turf soccer fields. Central Iowa Water Trails is really getting some big legs behind it now. I think we'll see that coming to fruition in the next couple of years. Your new hockey arena that you've been involved with at Merle Hay Mall, huge project, great project for the community. The USL Pro Soccer Stadium downtown, I think, is getting some legs as well, and we'll see some activity on that within the next year. The Drake Stadium, Des Moines Public School Stadium, going out for bid again. You're probably aware of that. And the new Johnston Ignite Sports Facility, too, will be a nice new addition to the metro area. So on that, I'm happy to answer any questions, concerns. We appreciate your partnerships for the many years and hope to continue.
All right, thank you, Greg. Any questions for Greg? I sat through a similar presentation as recently at our board meeting. I've been privileged to be on the board and just want to thank Greg and his staff for rolling with the punches. This is in the travel and entertainment industry, it's tough to encounter something like this for so long, and they've really done a good job of, despite all the adversities, working through it and doing the best job they can to bring the business they can to Des Moines. So Greg, thank you for what
Thank you, Mayor. And for some of you newcomers, the mayor was our chair for many years. We couldn't get him to step down, but no, I'm kidding. He was a great chair and has been a great supporter of us. So always at our board meetings and very attentive to our needs and stuff. I do want to thank Councilman Pogge and Councilman Russell for your service over these years. Don't be strangers. I'll probably see you at church and see you at the bowling alley or wherever you hang out. And, so God bless. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Greg. Appreciate it. And we have one last presentation. It's not on the agenda, but I'm going to recognize our Polk County Supervisor, Robert Brownell. Bob wanted to give a few words of an update.
Standing ovation.
I'll give you one.
That's all I'll ever get. Members of the council, Mr. Mayor, Robert Brownell, Polk County Board of Supervisors, Councilmember Blake, good to see you back. Matt, on behalf of the people of Polk County, we thank you for your service, and all veterans, obviously. But it's good to see you back. I had three things. I'm going to cut it back to two. We've had some great presentations here tonight. The third thing I was going to talk about was ARPA. We can talk about that anytime. Suffice it to say, we have $95 million to spend. We'll spend it. Moving on to, believe me. Moving on, Jerry Holt mentioned your partnership with Clive on one of the presentations, the first presentation here tonight. That's an interesting one because I want to talk to you tonight about CAD to CAD. And what that means is computer-aided dispatch is CAD. There's 3 dispatch centers in Metro Des Moines. Westcom, which dispatches for Urbandale, Clive, West Des Moines, the original members. And then now Waukee, Norwalk, and Windsor Heights is in that too. So that dispatch center by itself dispatches for a population that would be the second largest city in the state of Iowa, bigger than Cedar Rapids. Des Moines dispatches for Des Moines, obviously, which is the largest city in the state of Iowa. And then Polk County dispatches for everybody I haven't mentioned before. Ankeny, Johnson, Grimes, Polk City, Altoona, and so forth. Also would be the second largest city in the state of Iowa. So it's a big population base. We have 3 dispatch centers. Many people think that's too many. But I remember back when we started Westcom, we had 17 dispatch centers in Metro Des Moines. So it's a great improvement. But we need to move to other ideas that can encompass better services for the folks. And I think constituents all see that the public kind of sees 911 as a service that works pretty well right now. I think from the perspective of the first responders, it could be better. We do have communication between radios. It isn't really as much a radio problem as it is a CAD problem. And the CAD systems dispatch basically within your dispatch areas. Westcom has a CAD, Des Moines has a CAD, Polk County has a CAD. The state has come alongside us to help us with the financing of a CAD to CAD system. We thought for a while we'd just go to a brand new CAD, but we're going to go to a CAD to CAD system. This would be kind of like walking before we run. But what that'll do would be to open up the dispatch opportunities like exist between Clive and Urbandale. Clive and Urbandale are so far ahead of the curve right now on these dispatch centers because they are part of the same CAD. They're part of Westcom CAD. So what the dispatcher sees, I think our dispatchers are gone now, but what they see is where all the units are, and the computer dispatches the closest unit that's there to the event. And if that's Clive, it's Clive. If it's Urbandale, it's Urbandale. So there's a lot of cross-border going on. The first month it was opened up, there's over 1,000 cross-border responses that went on. It's been a spectacular success. And as Jerry mentioned, there's been not just this one incident that he mentioned here earlier, but others that have resulted in very good service for the public. So where the public maybe sees 911 is working pretty well, it can work better. And it is a matter of the radios. Like I said, it's more a matter of the CAD. So we're going to set up a CAD to CAD system. The state's come alongside with $5 million to help us go to a CAD to CAD system. The CAD system we've chosen to kind of oversee this is called Center Square, which is the CAD system owned by Westcom. So as time goes on, I think when we get used to it and the system begins to work better, we'll go to a single CAD system. The entire metro area will then be able to work on a closest unit response type arrangement, which will be a tremendous improvement in emergency response and service for the public and service for the first responders. Typically, Des Moines has been less than enthusiastic about these kind of arrangements. In this case, they've been among the leaders in putting this helping put this together and working with all the entities to help put this into a reality. The only problem we had with the state money was that it had to be spent by 12/31 of 21. Now we can spend the money and get services later, which is what we're doing. And so we did arrange that with Center Square. We're bringing in a consultant to help us with some of the staffing issues that'll go along with the CAD to CAD system, because we have a CAD expert at Westcom, for example, but that's what he does, is the current CAD system. He can't just double up his work and take that on. So that's what's going on there. But it's going to be great, and I wanted to let you know about that because it will kind of open up a whole Clive and Urbandale kind of arrangement for everybody. I know Johnson, Adam and I were having this conversation earlier this morning over in Clive. Urbandale and Johnson Grimes would be a natural partner, but they can't do it right now because the CADs are different. So when the CADs become joined up, they'll be able to do that. That'll be a tremendous improvement in northern Urbandale and also in Johnson and Grimes. So. And it's not just ambulance. A lot of the calls are ambulance, yes, but it also works with police and fire. So anyway, that's CAD to CAD. It's coming up. The other thing I wanted to mention to you is the Afghans. The Afghans are coming. The Afghans are here. My last count last week was 180 Afghans in Iowa. Of that, 130 of them are in Des Moines, or Metro Des Moines, I should say. And more coming. There's 3 resettlement agencies approved by the State Department, and they are United States Committee on Refugees and Immigrants, or known as USCRI, Catholic Charities, and now LSI, Lutheran Services of Iowa, is also now plugged into the resettlement business. The most of the load so far has been done by USCRI and Catholic Charities. They've done a tremendous job, but there's more coming. As I said, over 70% of the Afghans that are in Iowa right now are in Metro Des Moines, and that number will probably continue. We've heard estimates that are anywhere from 1,300 to 1,400 Afghans by the end of this. The military bases want the Afghans off their bases and into other locales. So those dates have been pushed up from March 1st, March 15th, back into February or January even, so that it's going to ramp up. I know USCRI and Catholic Charities have several, like 30 to 40 families coming in here this Friday night. So what they've been doing with them to date has been putting them into Extended Stay America, both in West Des Moines and Urbandale, and then into more permanent housing from there. Now we're going directly to permanent housing. The state's opened up some money through IFA to access any housing, not just affordable housing, but any housing. So that's a good thing. The IWD is working hard to get them employed. Our employers are anxiously awaiting to interview these Afghans and put them to work, because we all know that workforce is one of our big issues here in town, not just in Urbandale, but across the metro. And that works great as long as you have infrastructure there that can translate for people that aren't fluent in English. What we're getting here in Iowa are called humanitarian parolees, as opposed to SIVs, special immigrant visas. Special immigrant visas, well, you probably saw the translators that work with the military. Those are them and their families were the SIVs. Humanitarian parolees would be more working class, contractors that have worked with the United States government, people working in the embassy, these kinds of things, where they'd be dangerous, Afghan soldiers. I've met a couple of Afghan soldiers that, at the airport, people whose lives would be in danger, their families would be in danger if they stayed in Afghanistan. So these folks come here with some skills, there's no question about that, but they also come here with limited English skills. So we're gonna have to train them up, and so it's gonna be a little while before we get them trained up and fluent in English. But if a company has infrastructure to take these folks on and put them to work without knowing English as well as they might hope, then great for them, but I don't know of anybody that does that. So right now, we're just getting them settled in. The county is gonna be buying 300 beds for them. You'll have that on the agenda next Tuesday. Why are we buying beds? Why don't we just get beds contributed? Because the State Department says that the beds have to be new, no used beds. So we're gonna buy 300 beds from Nebraska Furniture Mart, and we've got a warehouse downtown, we'll put them in. Electronics have to be new also. No, that goes from microwaves all the way to lamps. Those can't be used pieces of equipment. So there's lots of interesting rules, but we're needing pots and pans, clothing, other kind of furniture, couches, chairs, those kinds of things, because they're coming here with basically nothing, maybe a suitcase. And so every piece of furniture, everything we can do for them that they don't have to buy themselves is money they can spend on rent and learning the system, learning how to get around town. So it's going to be a good population. We've got a great heritage here in Iowa of welcoming immigrants and refugees. And this is no different. We welcomed refugees and immigrants from Southeast Asia in the 70s. Now we're going to welcome these folks, and they'll be great, and Bosnians and Serbians in the 90s. And these folks are no different. They're going to come in here, and they're going to be part of our community and part of our fabric, and they're going to be just terrific citizens, just like all the rest of the immigrants we have here now. You might be interested to know, and I'll finish up with this because I think this is an astounding statistic. The Des Moines Metro has the second largest foreign-born population growth in the United States. First largest in the Midwest. There's only one city ahead of us in foreign-born population growth since 2010 to now. So we're doing something right. We only settle maybe 600 people per year, and there's thousands that come here. So we have a lot of secondary immigrants that come here. They get settled in Los Angeles or Phoenix or Charlotte or New York or someplace, San Francisco. They hear about Des Moines, places like Des Moines, Columbus, Omaha, but places like Des Moines, and they know they can come here and they can work hard and they can be part of the American dream and own their own home and send their kids to good schools, whether it's in Urbandale or West Des Moines or wherever it is. And they're hearing about us, and so they're coming here and they're becoming good citizens. So same thing with the Afghans, but it'll take a while to get them integrated into the community, but they'll get there. Anyway, that's all I have, and if I can answer any questions for you, I'd be happy to.
All right.
I have a question, Bob. Well, first I wanted to thank you because I know you're very committed to the whole immigrant community that we have in the metro and their resettlement. But is there anything specific as a community that we can be doing to be supportive of this effort? Or do you really just rely on the individual contributor to, donate?
My advice is that the resettlement agencies are the ones they're the frontline workers. And so maybe they need money, maybe they need physical things. Money comes in handy, not just because they can have it so they can pay for volunteer coordinators, for example. And that's one thing they need the most, because I got a lot of people want to volunteer, but you have to coordinate that. So my advice is get with LSI or Catholic Charities or USCRI and ask what they need. And if they say pots and pans, then pots and pans. If they say we need $50, then it's $50. but they're the best people to judge that. We can do a lot of things on a bigger scale in Polk County, but there's a lot of individual Iowans and people who live here in Urbandale and other places that want to do something, and they're the best source of information, I think.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Bob, while you're up there, I want to congratulate you on your recent award as the Immigrant Champion Award from the Immigration Entrepreneur Summit, I believe, so.
Yeah, I think they ran out of guys to give awards to.
But
Mayor
obviously you're,
Mayor Andrew was nice enough to say nice things about me on the video, which surprised everyone, I think. So thanks very
but,
much.
I mean, that's obvious that your selection for that award is obvious to your dedication for immigration in Iowa. So thank you for your efforts on that, so appreciate
Thanks
it.
very much.
All right, thank you. All right, we are through our presentations. We are going to next turn to Citizens Forum. This is the opportunity to address the council on something that's not a part of tonight's regular agenda. Is there anyone that would like to address the council at this time? All right, seeing none, we're going to move on. Item 5 is to adopt the minutes from the November 16, 2021 meeting. Ask for a motion in a second.
So moved.
Motion by Obrecht,
Second.
second by Carberry Montgomery. Discussion, please vote. That passes. Item 6 is the consent agenda. There are 14 items for approval.
Move to approve consent agenda.
Motion by Obrecht,
Second.
second by Russell. Discussion, please vote. That passes. Thank you. Item 7 is to establish public hearings versus item 7.1 to establish a public hearing for the 2080 agreement regarding the sanitary sewer project coordination and connection with the city of Grimes. This would establish a December 14, 2021 hearing date for that. Steve Franklin, our Community Development Director, answer any questions if there are. Is there a
I would move approval of Council Letter 6892.
motion by Poggi? Second by Blake, sorry. It's the first time I said that in a while. Second by Blake. Discussion, please vote. All right, that passes. Item 7.2 is to establish a public hearing for the proposed election precinct boundaries.
I guess question on this, will we see a map before the public hearing?
Yes, during the public hearing itself, presentation and advance your end votes.
Okay.
We've got maps pretty well put together. If you'd like to see them before the public hearing, I can certainly provide those. Otherwise, certainly at the public hearing, we'll show you the maps.
I would
Visual,
appreciate,
I like the maps.
yeah.
All right.
Move Council Letter 6895.
Motion by Russell.
Second.
Second by Obrecht. Discussion, please vote. It passes. Moving on to planning and zoning items. Item 8.1 is the Waterford Point Townhomes Plat 1 final plat at 142nd Street and Waterford Road. Steve?
Okay, this is a final plat. There we go. I've got this turn, so it's oriented with north to the top of the sheet. So this is Waterford Road here at the bottom. This is 142nd Street here on the right side of the page. And this is the first of a couple of phases for townhomes to be built as part of this overall Waterford Point development. The overall development was 76.5 acres. You can see that there's some single-family homes that are in the process of being constructed immediately adjacent to the west, and this section is for townhomes. So this first phase establishes 23 single-family attached lots, which we also call as townhomes. You can see access will be from both 142nd Street and from 145th, which comes in off of Waterford here to the south. So, and then a future phase will follow. Planning and Zoning Commission recommends approval, subject to items noted. Would be happy to answer questions.
Okay. Thanks, Steve. Any questions? Not? Ask for a motion in a second.
Move approval of Resolution 6894.
Okay, motion by Fogy. Second by Blake. Discussion, please vote.
If you don't mind, I'll do a voice vote.
Okay, we will take a roll call.
Wait a minute, it just came up.
Just waiting for me to give up hope on it.
All right, that passes. Thank you. Item 8.2 is the Prairie Tower Plat 2 preliminary plat and final plat at 128th Street and Hickory Drive.
These next two items, 8.2 and 8.3, I'll show you these together because they are directly related to one another, and then you can do the vote separately for each one. But this is the plat, and what this does, Meredith Drive is just off to the bottom of the page here. This is 128th Street. The previous plat established 3 lots. Lot 1, which is the lot on which the previously approved Hy-Vee Fast and Fresh will be constructed. There's another lot here on the hard corner, and then this was all one parcel. And so what this plat does is take what was Lot 3 and divide it into 2 pieces. And Lot 1, I will show you here in just a second, is where there is a daycare proposed to be constructed on that lot immediately north of where the Fast and Fresh is going to be. So preliminary and final plat to create one lot that was platted previously into 2 parcels. Planning and Zoning Commission does recommend approval of that item. And then on that Lot 1, which was the westernmost of those 2 parcels, this is a proposed daycare to be constructed on that lot. The building itself is just under 14,000 square feet. So you can see the building itself right here in kind of this darker shaded rectangle. There is a fenced play area both to the north and to the south. And then there is parking and access that comes off of either end of the lot there. They do meet the minimum setbacks, minimum parking requirements for that particular use. And then I believe, if I scroll down here, I think the elevations were in here. There you go. So there's what the elevation looks like of how the building will look. It is predominantly brick, so it does meet the requirements of the PUD from that particular aspect as well. Planning and Zoning Commission recommends approval of both the the preliminary and final plat and of the site plan itself. Be happy to answer any questions.
Okay.
Steve, I'm dating myself a little bit here, but we had approved a daycare facility near Casey's.
Yep, on the south side.
Did that expire?
It has expired. We have been in contact with them. They have not told us definitively they're not going to build that, but they haven't said we're getting ready to start it either. So we'll see. There is a possibility that you could have a daycare immediately on the south side as well. Seems to be the new thing in the metro right now.
Yeah, you can't build them fast enough.
Yeah.
I just hope they can staff them.
Yeah, that really is true. I'll go back up to this site plan just so you can see that one more time.
Move approval of Prairie Tower Plat 2 preliminary plat.
And final plat.
We can do them as one, okay?
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. There are 2 items. Thank you. Motion by Obrecht,
Second.
second by Pogue. Discussion, please vote. Thank you. I wasn't paying attention. Okay, that passes.
And then move approval of resolution 249-2021 final plat, Prairie Tower Plat 2.
Motion by Obrecht,
Second.
second by Pogue. Discussion, please vote.
apologize. I have all the votes came in on that. They were 5 ayes.
You went to voice vote?
Yes, the motion passed. They all came through.
Oh, it did pass?
It did. It passed 5-0.
Okay, I'm sorry. It's hard for me here with the screen here, so, all right. Move on then to item 8.3, the New Horizon Academy site plan to the 130th Street and Hickory Drive. And Steve, anything further on that?
Nothing more to add unless you've got questions.
Okay.
Move approval of council letter 6897.
Motion by Obrecht. Second by Pogge. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
Yes.
All right, moving on then, I have 9 regular agenda items. First is item 9.1, the solar group buy for the Grow Solar Polk County Program, and introduces is our Director of Support Services and Risk Management, John Conyer. John?
Thank you, Council and Mayor. Tonight, I'm going to introduce Carrie Carney and Patrick Snell from Thousand Friends of Iowa to come up. They have a short presentation for you to learn a little bit more about what a Grow Solar Buy program is. So I'm going to load that and get that started here for them. And I'm going to turn the floor over.
Okay.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for letting us speak tonight. My name is Carrie Kearney. I'm with 1,000 Friends of Iowa. We are a statewide nonprofit, and our home base is over at the office towers at Merle Hay Mall, so just down the road. Also with me is Patrick Snell, who's with the Nature Conservancy of Iowa, and we're here to talk to you about a solar group buy program that we're trying to start here in Polk County. Let's see if I can figure it. So first of all, we want to talk just a little bit about, first, thank you for listening to us. We want to talk a little bit about why this matters and why it matters for Urbandale to support it. Really right now, there are 3 main areas that help that a solar group buy can really help with. It really helps with innovative leadership. It helps the city of Urbandale meet sustainability goals and renewable energy goals. I know the city of Urbandale voted not very long ago to move forward with doing a greenhouse gas emissions inventory. And in some of the strategic plan and comprehensive plan documents, there is a goal to expand renewable energy. A solar group buy is a great way to do that at no cost to the city whatsoever. But it provides a great opportunity for residents and businesses to have access to solar. It really is a way to drive economic development in Urbandale, empowers homeowners, businesses to really be able to make their own energy decisions, reduce energy burden, and get, if they want to do solar, also get it at a really affordable cost, with us doing a lot of the legwork beforehand, screening solar installers and so forth, which you'll hear more about from Patrick. And it also really generates a lot of local enthusiasm around solar and other sustainability goals that we've seen that the city is moving forward. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Patrick. He's going to talk a little more in detail about the program. And then I'll come back and talk a little bit about what we're asking the city of Urbandale to do.
All right.
Great, thank you. So I've been doing these programs now for 4 years. And simply what the program is, it's a program where homeowners and businesses can come together as a community to install solar at reduced prices. So you've all seen, solar on that neighbor's house, that church, that business down the road, but there's still a lot of logistical and financial obstacles in figuring out what it takes to go solar, how to work with the permitting process with the city, how to work with the local utility, with this case, Mid-American. What are other things you can consider for insurance or what type of modulars make sense for your installation. So what this program does is there's two main pieces. It provides an educational venue to inform individuals about solar energy and what to consider when making that investment. That's really the core of this program. It's a community-led, grassroots-led program that is focused around simply just an educational series that we will host all around Polk County. And then that second piece is creating an opportunity for those interested in solar to participate in a volume discount. So instead of one person going out and saying, I'm going to put a 5 kilowatt system on my house, we say, what if we could get 5 residents? What if we get 10 residents? What if we get 20 residents, a couple businesses, and a church to participate in the program? And when we first started doing this, we weren't quite sure what the enthusiasm would be. We did this as a pilot for the Nature Conservancy 4 years ago. And it's been a huge success. I'm really glad and excited to bring it to Polk County. We've now done it in 6 other counties, and living in Des Moines, it's really exciting to be able to do it here in Polk County and start the program. So real quick, I thought I'd share a case study. This is Solarize Waukee, the Dallas County Grow Solar Program. This was a partnership with the City of Waukee, Midwest Renewable Energy Association, the Nature Conservancy, and Waukee Apex. From that program, we saw 245 kilowatts of solar energy signed up through the program. There's a lot of people who've been on the fence thinking about solar, or a business thinking about solar, but it's hard to say, when am I going to put that time into figuring out the logistics of it, thinking through it. And this program provides an opportunity, an easy way to have a turnkey understanding of solar energy systems. From that one, we had 29, that equates to 29 households, 3 businesses and 1 church. The church was the Urbandale United Church of Christ. As an interesting thing, there were some residents from Urbandale who were at the Dallas County programs, wanted to put it on their church. So we're hoping that would also be a place we'd obviously host one of these educational events when we do the Polk County program. In addition to the actual residents that signed up, we had 260 people attend those educational events. For us, the big piece of it is how many people can we get to come to those educational series just to learn about solar energy and how it works in your community. From that, we saw $750,000 of private investment pumped into the local economy, and 6 months of statewide local news coverage, radio hits, television spots. We had Willis Auto end up doing 3 big statewide interviews, which for the city of Waukee was a huge excitement, showing their innovation, what Carrie was talking about as a no-cost program. It's great when you can have that really community-led enthusiasm to support this program. Another quick example, this was done in 2019, and just showing that there's no one set model for success, but you want to make sure you have program partners and cities that can endorse the program to bring credibility and widespread awareness on it. So unlike the Waukee program that was just a couple of smaller partners, we really anticipate the Polk County program will be similar to Linn County, where we'd bring on a whole host of cities, Linn County Public Health is a part of this, and bring those together. For those numbers, we had 93 installations and $1.6 million in private investment. Some big numbers with over 404 people attending those 23 educational events. So how does it work? I like to think of the program as 2 phases. That first phase is the program setup, forming that advisory team. Right now, Carrie and I are going around meeting with different city councils, meeting with other organizations to try to get that support for it. We have the official endorsement right now of the City of Clive, Windsor Heights, and Elkhart, and have tentative support from Des Moines, Polk County, and Pleasant Hill. And as we do these meetings, we'd hope to bring on all the cities before we would then launch the program in February. And that's really the second phase, the fun phase of it. We'll organize those educational events, 10 to 15 of them. And then during those educational events, a resident or business owner can learn about the process, see if it's something they're interested in. And if they are interested in it, then it goes to that final, the last section in yellow, which would be an individual contract that business or resident signs with a installer. So there's no contract or anything with the city or other partners that are supporting it. It's an individual choice by those businesses or residents if they want to go solar at that time. So at the end, it's a partnership with the city, and
Yeah, and so with the partnership in the city, basically what we're asking the city, what the city's role would be through this partnership is that the city council would pass a resolution of support, which I believe you have a draft resolution that you're going to talk about tonight. Allow us the use of your logo and communication channels to let folks know about the program. If you saw, I'll just back up here. This is one of the examples of how logos, city logos were used. I know this was one of the questions that you had. So just letting you know, it was kind of brought to you by these different organizations, and you see several cities in the county there. Also with this, we would love to have someone from the city of Urbandale or more than one person participate as part of the advisory team. The advisory team is responsible for creating an RFP to identify solar installers. When we did this in Warren County, there were some really specific things that Warren County City Council's, the advisory team members really wanted to include in that RFP. So that made a big difference, and the advisory team will choose those installers. We're asking for use of city facilities to potentially host community outreach meetings. So if there's a space at City Hall that we could host a city outreach meeting, potential review and potential streamlining of solar system installation permitting process. If there's a cumbersome process, some of the other cities kind of looked at streamlining a little bit where they had some cumbersome processes, and consideration of solar projects for city facilities. If you're interested, we know several of the cities we've been speaking to have been interested in looking at projects, solar projects for city facilities. And then, of course, sharing the success of the Grow Solar project with others. Recently this summer, we were at a meeting with Polk County supervisors, and both Lynn County and Johnson County were presenting, and they both talked about how valuable their solar group buy programs were, and really recommended with Polk County to work with us in the Midwest Renewable Energy Association to do this group buy. I think that is all we have. If you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer it. But the bottom line is, it's a simple way for the city to help promote renewable energy goals and allow residents to have access to low-cost solar at a lower cost where somebody else has done a lot of the legwork for them.
Thank you, Carrie, and I appreciate you being able to come tonight. I've had several conversations with you and some other Urbandale residents about this program and other programs that we can work with here in Urbandale. I know the answer, but I want to have you answer it for the group. So I live in Dallas County, Urbandale. Would I be able to participate in this program?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Again, when we talk about like what we want from the city and how that we look at support is, at the end of it, it's just a community-driven program. So we have a general boundary that we talk about. We want to host educational events in Polk County. But if there are people in Dallas County or other surrounding counties that want to participate, more the merrier.
Yeah. And as it was mentioned before, when they did the Solarize Waukee, Urbandale folks participated. There were several, actually, Urbandale people who participated in that program. So
Great, thank you.
I just want to clarify a couple things. One is just the length of time that you're looking at. Is this like a 6-month thing? Is it a 1 year? How long are we saying from you get the endorsement from everybody to when the programs are potentially up and going?
Yeah, so it would be about 6 to 8 months. These first 2 months, It'll be pretty quiet as we're trying to get this advisory team. But the core of the program would probably be about the 3 to 4 month window. When we're doing the promotion, we're talking about the community outreach side.
And so then at the end of this time, Grow Solar Polk County, in essence, just kind of ceases to exist? Or would there be a second reiteration in the future or something? If you wanted that, would you come back for another endorsement type thing?
Yep, so a good example with Lynn County, that's the first one I worked on. We've now done 3, but in each time we've gone back, well, the city council has actually asked us to come back and do the program again. And each time, as that limited group buy exists, whenever that deadline is set, and I think we'll shoot this one for July 30th, that's when then this endorsement would end from the support of Urbandale.
And then on that group buying piece, you're going out to potentially local businesses to say, hey, we're now a collective group, we want to buy from you. So you're not bringing vendors to the table, you're going out and trying to find vendors that are potentially in the community.
So we'll send out the advisory team will develop an RFP that will be sent out to, shared pretty broadly and sent out to existing installers. But the advisory team will develop the criteria and then evaluate those RFPs, and the advisory team would then choose who they wanted as the installer, or potentially in Polk County, where it could be very large, could choose more than one installer.
So just with like the Urbandale Chamber, we got a great chamber here in Urbandale, and I know at least 4 of the companies that do solar installs, so I obviously want to make sure that they can participate in the process and benefit accordingly to keep the dollars local. So the one thing in the resolution, I didn't see an expiration date, so that's why I asked about that of, do we need to add an expiration date to the resolution to say this is for the first round of Go Solar only?
I think if you want, we would come back. And I think we'd only really come back and do it again if city councils and Polk County residents were saying, hey, we want to do this again, which is what happened in Lynn County. And Johnson County as well has done too. And it's just a very popular program. We put solar on our house through the Warren County solar group by last year, because we're kind of right there on the border. So we were able to get solar. It was a super easy process, and we had gotten quotes for solar in the past, and it really was much more affordable than it had been from the quotes we'd gotten outside of the group buy, and it was so easy for us to do it. So I enjoyed it. And I enjoy my $6 utility bills.
I have a question, probably more for AJ or for Bob. We share our logo with 2 other organizations, the Urbandale School and the Urbandale Chamber. We're granting here, and I'm okay with it, the use of that logo. Is there any restrictions or any sort of pullbacks that we would need, or would they have to join in with this consent before we're allowing the Urbandale Chamber's logo to be used as well as the school?
When the city redid or revised its logo that we currently use now, we maintain control of that logo. So we will use, if granted by the council, it'll be used on behalf of the city of Urbandale. And so, again, sharing that logo with 2 other entities, but it's your endorsement as a city council they're seeking. So again, we have authorization. When we redid the logo, we kept the authorization with the city.
Okay.
So
we don't need their permission or consent?
No, it's this governing body that controls the use of that logo.
Okay, just a technicality question, thanks.
So you're up. Sorry, Bob. Okay.
All right, any further questions or comments? Again, I think this is a great program. I sat through a presentation on this, and it's a way to, I think it's a win-win. There's no cost, direct cost to the city, and provides significant savings to our residents, so.
I'll move approval of council letter 6888.
Motion by Carberry Montgomery.
And I just want to clarify that is for the first program. If they do a second program, that they'll come back for another.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're second by Pogge. Any further discussion? not, please vote. All right, passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, moving on then, item 9.2 is to have the presentation regarding the comprehensive annual financial report. And with that, I will introduce our finance director, Nikki Lamb. Nikki?
Mayor, members of the council, we've had a whole lot of talking tonight, so I'm going to move through this one pretty quickly. Pleased to present at your places, you should all have a copy of the comprehensive annual financial report for our audit for June 30, 21. This was taken to the audit committee on November 19th. It was accepted by the committee at that time. The full report is always available at the library at our front desk here at City Hall and on our website. The only things I really want to point out, I will leave the 100 pages of viewing pleasure for you to review this evening on your own, but I would point out we did receive the Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting. Again, this is the 38th consecutive year that the city has achieved that. This is for the previous, this 6/30/20 report, and we have applied or will apply after it's approved tonight for this current document. The other piece that I would point out to you is just to go through that first section that's on our letterhead. The transmittal letter, that's a recap of everything that the council has, or the more significant impactful items that you have approved during the last fiscal year. So it's always kind of a nice refresher of what's happened in the city, which is a lot, 14 pages of a lot of things that have happened, and it's a nice recap. And for those of you that don't like financial statements and all the numbers, read the MD&A. It's the Management's Discussion and Analysis, which is the verbal version of my financial statements. So it also then takes the time to explain why did something change or what does that make up. So that's kind of the section to focus on if you're not loving financial statements, to read it in depth. But that is the key pieces of the document. The rest of it is comprised of the actual financials, and at the end is the required supplementary information. So that's your piece for budget. Your legal requirement with the state is that did you exceed your budget or not, which we did not. So that's always a good thing. And then the piece that is very helpful, I think, for comparison, I know you all do love numbers when it's how does the trend look? So the very back section has all these lovely tables that have 10 years of data. So if you want to know what valuations are, or the employee count, or how many miles of trails have we had over the last 10 years, there's a lot of information in the back, and it's just kind of a nice recap for as we approach budget cycle, you can answer some of those questions for you. That's really all I'm going to highlight. Like I said, there's a lot of documentation in there. It did already go through audit committee, and that pretty much concludes my presentation. And thanks to my staff who is not here tonight, but for all the hours that they put in, and then all the other department directors that get to deal with us while we go through a crazy audit season every year. Happy to answer any questions or concerns that you might have.
All right, any questions for Nikki?
Thanks for pointing out pages 90 and 91. If you do look at that, take time. You see how much the demand for services in our city over the last 10 years has increased, especially with police and fire, the number of calls, the number of arrests, the number of miles of highway lanes that are being plowed each and every year. And you really get a sense of the growth of our city over the past 10 years. So those are two good pages. If you could look at nothing else, look at pages 90 and 91. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Nikki. And with that, I'll ask for a motion in a second.
Move to approve the CAFR annual report.
Motion by Obrecht.
Second.
Second by Russell. Discussion, please vote. All right, that passes. And again, this is a great summary of our city, as both Nikki and Dave alluded to. There's just a lot of good information here, so I would commend anybody to spend some time with us just to see that this is a great summary of what we do in black and white. So thank you, Nikki. And thank you to the audit committee. I just realized I missed the meeting that day too, so.
Don't worry, we eat your pizza anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Somehow I didn't get to my calendar anyway. All right, moving on then to item 9.3, that's to consider the purchase for the Motorola Solutions WatchGuard video evidence storage. And Chief?
Mayor, members of council, I can answer any questions you have. Basically, we're proposing to jump to the cloud with our video evidence storage as this beast becomes larger and larger as we've expanded our body camera program. Initially, that program, as you're aware, was just in patrol. And over the last couple of years, we've expanded that to all, basically every time a sworn officer is out doing anything, they're video recording it, whether that be investigations, our suburban emergency response team, our narcotics people, they're all wearing body cameras out there now. So our evidence is growing exponentially. At the advice of our city IT persons, we'd set $40,000 aside in this current budget to buy a new server. And as we got close to doing that, as that server was becoming, this was gonna be a backup, because we didn't have a backup for our current body camera and in-car camera videos. As we got closer to that, IT advised that the current server is getting very old as well. So not only would we have to buy a backup server this year, we'd have to replace the other server next year. So we're talking north of $80,000, $90,000 over those next two budget cycles. At that time, they recommended that we get out of that business and go to the cloud. And so that's what we're proposing tonight, is to, instead of buying that server with that $40,000 that we have in the current budget, to go to the cloud with our WatchGuard body camera system is what we use as WatchGuard. They were purchased by Motorola, so you see the Motorola name on there. That will be an annual cost going forward if we go to the cloud. Looks a little worse than it really is, because we were paying $7,800 a year in maintenance agreement already to WatchGuard. So that goes away and is replaced by this bigger number. So you're really looking at about $28,500 there, which is still a huge number, and a ghastly huge number to me. When I do the budgeting, it's like, holy cow, where is the end of this? But IT's recommending that's what we do, more secure. We get a few more options with that as well. The way we share video with county attorney's office, those kinds of things. When it's out in the cloud, obviously that makes it easier to move it around. So that's what we're proposing tonight. I'd answer any questions if you have any.
How long are you keeping video for?
Currently, we keep, it depends on what happens. So the standard is 2 years for everything, and that covers any lawsuits that may occur. So we've expanded that to 2 years on everything, and then we have indefinite storage on a lot of things. And what we do is go back then and review those for court cases being resolved, pled out, whatever it is. If that's all done, then we drop that off once it gets to that age. But yes, right now we have a ton of video.
So, and define that. How much is a ton?
Oh, I don't know the number. I could talk to IT. They went through it all. I can't remember how many terabytes we have, but we were filling up, and they had to move some of that to make storage room for additional. And that I could get those numbers for you on what it is, the terabytes.
Just curious.
36,000.
Yeah. Is it a petabyte or what is it?
So the data that we're currently storing on the server, just probably more information than I wanted, than you want to know tonight. We have a bunch of data already. So as we migrate to the cloud, there's going to be a migration cost to migrate that data over. I'm still working with IT to work around that. We're trying to dump as much of it as we can, wait it out until it's no longer useful or no longer needed. Then we won't need to migrate it as well. So we're trying to work that number down, but that will be in the next budget year. The initial estimate to move the data that we currently have is 15 grand. I'm hoping to get that down to the 6 or 7 grand area. And hopefully maybe we can even just store it ourselves until that time runs out, and then we won't even need to migrate it. That's what I'm working towards. So still in the process with that.
When you do migrate it, please warn the rest of the staff that they can't use the internet for a few days. So
It's a lot. It's a lot. And like I said, it's growing. We kind of had a handle on it when we were just running patrol, and then as we just kept added body cameras, it just continues to get more and more data pouring in on us. So,
Chief, at any opportunity, appreciate the opportunity for us to help you do your job, better. And, by increasing the number of body cams we have on the street, I think it makes us a more accountable and transparent organization. So I am more than happy, to support an expense like this. And so I just wanted to say that. I know you sometimes get a little shy when asking for money, but if it's to make your job and our community better, I have no problem with supporting that. And I guess my question would be, so you'll keep the physical servers going for a while until the timeline expires on some of that data?
Yes, we'll either migrate it or keep those servers up and running and keep that going. Like I said, it was just getting to where we needed to replace them from what IT told me, you need to replace those servers every 5 or 6 years. So that's why the decision was made to just get out of that business. But yes, we will definitely keep that data either in-house or we'll migrate it. We'll keep it until we know for certain that it's not needed any longer. But I absolutely agree. The more cameras we have out there, the better it's been for us. And it's accountability that we can answer to at any time. And quite frankly, our citizens expect us to have cameras on and expect us to have that footage when something happens or if they have a question about what happened.
Chief, my question, again, obviously I support this too, but as we look at this and look at the numbers and know that now essentially every law enforcement agency in the area is also doing a similar thing, it seems to me that is there any way we looked at all, AJ, for any collaboration among other cities that we could do some sort of a group buy, or we do a group storage of some sort that we could all do this together and save some dollars as well? So similar to Westcom, I mean, could we do it for Westcom? Is there anything, has there been any discussion that we?
Not that I'm aware of. And one of the questions that came up was, it's pretty expensive, right? I think storing data is pretty cheap and getting cheaper all the time, right? Well, the problem is this is a proprietary system that WatchGuard runs off of, and the way the whole body cameras is. It's not like we're just buying some Google, off of Google and buy some space to store them out there, because then they're not retrievable and we can't get them back. And it's got to have the program to be able to play the videos, that proprietary video system, if you will, to run it. So there's other companies out there. Obviously, we chose WatchGuard for a reason. Taser International has their cameras. There's a bunch of different cameras, systems out there that we can get into. We chose WatchGuard for a lot of different reasons back when we went to that. It's probably the premier system out there in the United States. And so we're kind of stuck with what they tell us that they're going to charge us for cloud storage because of we have to run it through their system, if you will. I don't know if I'm explaining that right.
No, I get that. I know it's proprietary, but I was just thinking too, we can't be the only one using Motorola either. And I think, don't we use Motorola for Westcom? I mean, that's.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, most of the metro agencies most of them are running WatchGuard systems for their cameras. But I guess I've never talk to the company about if we could do some type of a bigger group and maybe get a larger discount.
Yeah, that's just something
or some type of discount for running a larger group, but we can certainly look into that.
I just think it's a natural, given our past collaborations with other cities on things. I don't know if it's a natural extension of Westcom. That's what
I can definitely look into it.
Yeah, okay. All right.
The only provision I'd add to that, if we're going to do a sharing type of arrangement, let's check with ICAP before we do it, because you have issues getting tapes into evidence, and we want to make sure that it's not accessible, and you have chain and custody of that just like you do all the other evidence.
Sure.
So, we can get the city attorney to heavily involved in it, I think.
All right. With that, is there a motion in a second?
I'll move approval of Council Letter 6891.
Motion by Carby Montgomery,
Second.
second by Pogge. Discussion, please vote. All right, that passes. Oh, there we go on the screen. You got it to work again. Thank you. All right, moving then on to 9.4, to consider the professional services agreement with Housel Levine Associates. John, I'll bring you back up.
Council and Mayor, thank you. Tonight is to have a discussion and to approve a professional services agreement with Housel Levine to do the comprehensive plan and 3 vision plans for the downtown neighborhood, for Plum and Park Drive, and for the Douglas Avenue corridor. The comp plan was last done in 2003. It was updated in 2016, and the council made it a strategic priority to look at a new comprehensive plan a couple of years ago. It's taken us a little bit of time to get that off and moving, but we are on our way finally. So there was an ad hoc group put together to look at and review proposals that had come in. We did an RFP back in August. We received 9 proposals in September. The ad hoc group consisted of the mayor, Councilmember Carberry Montgomery, member of P&Z Commission, Economic Development Advisory Board, and then AJ and city staff. So we reviewed those 9 proposals that were submitted. We interviewed the 4 top firms to actually do virtual interviews with us. We then met several times and had a discussion about what was the most complete comprehensive plan proposal out there. And then also, who did we feel would be the best fit to tackle the comprehensive plan in a concise amount of time, but also making sure that they did an in-depth dive as well. The recommendation from that group was to choose Housel Levine. Brandon Nolan from Housel is virtual, I believe, still, if we haven't lost him. He is. I got a thumbs up. So he and I would be happy to answer specific questions. There was also Aaron DeJong from Economic Development was on the selection group, as well as Steve Franklin. They are also here to help answer questions if you might have those. And so that is a short summary, and would be happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, John. Any questions? Again, as John indicated, we had 9 very qualified folks that responded to the RFP. This was a very long process, and we had a lot of good discussion with groups, and it was not the easiest decision to make overall, but this is something that I think is very important moving forward on coming up with our update to our comprehensive plan. So,
I just have one quick question. Of the 4 that you interviewed, 3 seem to be relatively the same price, and one's significantly more. What's the big difference between those 3 versus the 4th?
Yeah, that's a good question. The one firm was significantly higher. They are also an East Coast firm, and so they had more travel expenses associated with it. Prices, we did get proposals from local firms, from those in the Midwest and those outside of the Midwest. So the ones that were a little bit higher and those that were much higher, a lot of that came down to travel costs. The RFP did request that they meet with you, P&Z, and especially businesses and residents to make sure that this was an inclusive plan and not just something done by them. So there is significant time spent on the ground here, and so that is a cost differential.
I would say it was a little bit more than the travel too. I mean, I asked that question straight up of that firm, and they indicated they felt like they had more of their principal time dedicated to the process, where they felt other firms probably didn't have as much of the principal planners and architects involved in the hands-on work of the plan. So, because I too was very interested in knowing why it was so much more expensive.
And then just my last follow-up, just briefly, what was the criteria for the decision of this one versus the other 3 that led to this decision?
Criteria to recommend Housel from the group, and please group, you can feel free to jump in here. It was a group consensus of those that they felt had expertise that met the RFP criteria that was outlined. and those that had the best fit. Everyone brought something slightly different to the field. And so the group really talked about who fit best, who they felt could do an in-depth plan just for a comprehensive plan and also for the 3 vision plans. And then cost did come down. The group did talk extensively about cost and why should you choose not the lowest and why should you possibly choose the highest. And I'd let the rest of the group chime in if they had any additional. Yeah.
I would say ultimately cost was not our final arbiter of our decision-making. I mean, we heavily considered those 4 regardless of what the cost was. So I feel like we came down with the best fit for our community.
You're welcome.
When will we get started?
That's a great question, Councilmember Carberry Montgomery. If you approve it tonight, then the hope is that House of Living and I will be on the phone either the end of this week, the beginning of next week, and then we can start kind of what is that roadmap. They had laid out a 15-month process to complete this comp plan and 3 vision plans. So some items would start to take shape here in December, but we would most likely get the group council and P&Z meeting with Housel would probably not take effect until probably middle January, the first part of February. And I did ask Nicole for when do you all meet for budget and CIP is that too, and then you have strategic plan coming up. So there's a lot of things that are in the back end, the first part. But the hope is to get this process moving and definitely get the stake and the bulk of it done, kind of that May through October piece when we can actually get people and boots on the ground and hold meetings and events and open houses and things of that nature.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But John, you're looking at a 15-month completion perhaps before we have a comp plan, and then there will be public hearings and notices, and so we're probably 2 years before we can have one put into effect?
Councilmember Russell, no, I am really hoping that the public meetings, final hearings and adoptions will be in that 15-month period.
Within that time, okay.
I slacked a little on the committee selection to get this to you, but I'm gonna really try to keep us on task to make 15 months.
John, you were a good taskmaster.
Good.
You're very good.
All right, unless there's anything further, ask for a motion in a second on.
I'd move approval of Council Letter 6889.
Motion by Pogge,
I'll second.
second by Carberry Montgomery. Discussion, please vote. All right, that passes. Thank you. Moving on to Mayor and Council items. Ron, anything tonight?
Nothing for me, thank you.
Bridget?
I had the opportunity to attend the dedication of the Clive Public Safety Center this morning, along with a couple of others of us up here. And it's just really impressive facility. The fact that they can co-locate their fire and police operations is going to be really great for their community. And I just, hearing it again tonight with these saves that we talked about, the first unit response agreement that we have with them is just something for us to be really, really proud of. Throughout the community, when we had our drive-in movie night and had an event here, Clive was first on the scene with their ambulance, and, we're out where I live, Clive is, the lines are like this, and they are very appreciative of our fire station out west. So I can't say enough. If you didn't get a chance to get a tour, I'm sure you can call someone over there and get a quick tour. Some beautiful artwork too. They have a solar array on the roof and an electric vehicle charging station out front. Very impressed.
Yep. All right, thanks. Yeah, it was a great event, and it's a wonderful example of our collaboration. Adam?
Yeah, I agree. It was a great event. So, and we got a new challenge coin to add to our collection. So those that were able to be there. So,
David?
Yeah, it was nice to tour that facility. Then another question, what's the status of the Ann Seltzer Community Center Aquatic Survey? And are we still planning to go forward on a bond issue in March? And here it is, December 1st. We're not going to go in March?
Next March, maybe.
At this point, and I'll speak on behalf of Jan, so if I'm wrong, we can blame her for not being here. But at the same time, they're finalizing the work with Ann, and it appears, the questions have to be formalized. I would agree with Councilmember Carberry Montgomery that it will probably be sometime at the earliest in late '22, or that I suspect the latest would be March of '23.
I think our options are November or March.
November 22 or March
Yes.
23.
Yes.
So I think that's what the committee is working around at this point in time. So I don't have anything more specific on Ann's material, but we can certainly get that information out.
Matt? Welcome back.
Yeah. Well, I don't have much to say other than I'm glad to be back. The chair feels like it's been taken care of. Everything feels good. It's just, I'm
You
glad.
didn't have that chair when you left, so you were in a different seat.
I think I was in that spot.
Yeah.
Then I'm over here now. I'm further away.
For 3 meetings, and then I'll move you again. So.
Oh, good. So I won't get used to this location. But I'm glad to be back. I'm glad to be doing this work again. I got to ease into it a little bit because I'm still kind of like, I feel almost like a new council member all over again in certain ways because I'm coming in a little blind on some subjects. But I'm glad to be back. I'm glad to be doing the good work of Urbandale again. So.
Okay, well, great. Welcome back again. I just have a few things, or actually just a couple of things. Just do want to note, I don't know if you saw in the paper, not many people remember, maybe other than Ron, but Joe Brick, former mayor of Urbandale from 1970 to 1974, passed away recently. Just want to recognize him and give our condolences to his family. The Brick family is a large family and a lot of attorneys in that family, so I do know a lot of them. Some folks here do too, but Joe was a one-term mayor of Urbandale, and we thank him for his service to Urbandale. Do want to know also then at our next meeting, just make sure to come early because we will have a reception for David and Ron before the meeting on the 14th. So we'll start that at 5 o'clock. So come in and thank Ron and Dave for their service before we start that meeting. So with that, ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
For a second?
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
So I think